I have not had a day through all of the Katrina stuff, through all the fighting to help keep a church open, through all the battles with, you know, all the way the devil might want to come at you.
Right.
I have not had a single day where I questioned why I'm a priest, where I wondered why am I doing what I'm doing, where I didn't want to be where God had me on that morning. And for me, I don't think there could be a greater confirmation or blessing than to wake up every day and know you're where God needs you to be.
That's awesome.
You know, it's just been so exciting.
Well, can we go back there then to that moment when you felt our Lord call you? Like, what was that like before the event, or if it was an event where He called you to be a priest, another Jesus to the world?
You know, for me, people, you know, they wait for those grandiose moments to think that, you know, I saw a light in the corner and heard a voice call me saying, follow me. You know, it really wasn't like that for me. For me, my entire life has been a build-up to getting to where I am. You know, I remember being excited about, you know, being in church as an altar server. I used to love serving Mass. I loved being on the altar. And I just, you know, there was something that draw. And then I was blessed to come across some really powerful priests in my life, you know, from Bishop Perry to Father Victor Cohier to some of the most phenomenal men, Father Joseph Brown, who's a Jesuit, God bless him. And, you know, I met some phenomenal priests. And there was something saying this might be it. But I didn't think it was going to be me. So when I graduated from high school, I actually had a scholarship to Tulane University. I was going to be a doctor. I was psychology pre-med was my major. And of course, after I got a D in biology, I realized I shouldn't be nobody doctor. Yeah. So I changed. And I actually went into education, but I realized that the reason why I really wasn't called to be a doctor was because that's not where my heart was. So I actually switched. When I switched to education and started majoring in elementary education, I was so excited. You know, working with young folk was it. And then after I did the switch to education, became a school teacher, loved it. I was named Outstanding New Teacher in the Public Schools of New Orleans. You know, I was nominated for other Teacher of the Year awards. But God kept saying, there's still more.
Right.
There's still something waiting. Because I was very content as a school teacher. You know, I was a 7:30 to 5 o'clock teacher.
Right.
You know, I was in my classroom all the time. And yet, God was saying there's more. And then on March 17, 1990, I was doing a retreat called HEC, Handicap Encounter Adults with Disabilities, and the retreats are still going to this day.
Awesome.
I remember they gave me a talk to give, and the name of the talk was Change a Human Challenge. And I was contemplating two things. I had been offered a teaching position in Abidjan in the Ivory Coast. I always thought I would, you know, go abroad and teach. But now, don't get me wrong, we're not talking about mission teacher. I am not the one called to mission work. This was to
this is some comfort.
This was international school for, you know, French and American diplomat kids. You know, every class had a, you know, amphitheater, you know, one of them kind of schools. Oh, yeah.
At least you're being real.
Oh, yeah, I ain't even gonna lie. I am not called to mission work, and it's no secret. But like, I was either gonna go to Abidjan or to enter the seminary. And believe it or not, the school that I taught at was literally across the street from the seminary. Okay. And so the big dilemma was cross the ocean, cross the street. And when at the retreat, I told them that these were the changes I was contemplating. When I talked about teaching abroad, you know, they applauded like, oh, that's great. But when I told them that I was thinking about going to the seminary, they erupted with applause. You know, they all excited, they're cheering. And I'm thinking, I might want to really give this a shot.
Yeah.
And it was on that day that I decided to enter the seminary. But one of the things that actually helped me really think about it was an older gentleman who was a Knight of Columbus at my parish. His name was Fred Winters, a man that I respected for years and years and years. We were at St. Simon Peter Parish in New Orleans East. Mr. Fred came up to me one day just out of the blue. And he said, you know, one day, I hope that you would be my priest. And I looked at him like, how did you even know I was thinking about the priesthood? But what hit me was, he didn't say, I hope you could be a priest. He said, I hope you would be my priest. And for a man that I had respected for many, many years to say that to me, that he would want me to be his spiritual leader, that made me really sit down and think, that maybe this is where God is calling me.
Yeah.
And so, you know, entered that seminary in 1990 and ain't looked back yet.
But there's so much more in store for you and for your people through Jesus Christ, who's reigning within your priesthood.
Well, you know it. And the joy of being a priest and being a minister is what I realize is that when I'm preaching a sermon, 99% of the time, I'm actually preaching to myself and hoping that it's going to help everybody else up. And I think that's the message that we, because if it's not feeding me, then how is it going to possibly nourish somebody else? Yeah. And that's why I know there's so much more waiting for us. You know, that's why I just thank God for all of the men who have dedicated their lives to the priesthood, the men who have become religious brothers, the women who have dedicated their lives as religious sisters, because Lord knows where would we be without the sisters? Right. You know, the ones who, you know, become deacons in our church. There's just something special to that moment. Mm-hmm. And we must always remind folk, as Bishop Nick D'Antonio told my daddy on the day I was ordained, if you can get a child to enter the seminary or religious life, it's an automatic ticket to heaven for the parents.
There we go.
And my daddy's response was, thank God, because I sure needed something.